The morning sunlight peeked through the curtains as 8-year-old Alex stared at the suit hanging on his bedroom door. The dark blue fabric seemed to mock him, a constant reminder of the day he'd been dreading for months. In just a few hours, his mom would be getting married, and there wasn't a thing he could do about it. "Alex, are you up, honey?" His mother's voice floated up the stairs, light and happy. Too happy, he thought. "Yeah," he called back, not moving from his bed. The sound of footsteps approached, and his bedroom door creaked open. Lisa stood there with her hair half done, already dressed in a simple white robe. Her face glowed with excitement, but her eyes held a hint of worry as she looked at her son. "You need to start getting ready soon," she said gently. "Uncle Pete will be here in an hour to drive us to the venue." Alex nodded but didn't speak. What was there to say? That he hated the suit? That he hated the whole idea of the wedding? That he hated Tom, the man who was trying to replace his dad? Lisa sat down on the edge of his bed. "I know this is hard," she said, reaching out to smooth his messy brown hair. "But Tom really cares about us, you know." "He cares about you," Alex mumbled. "Not me." "That's not true," Lisa sighed. "He's trying his best to connect with you. Remember how he took you fishing last weekend?" Alex remembered. He also remembered how Tom had tried too hard, talking about baseball statistics and video games in a way that felt fake, nothing like how Dad used to talk to him. "Can I have 5 more minutes?" Alex asked, pulling the blanket up higher. Lisa checked her watch and nodded. 5 minutes. "Then I need you to be a brave boy for me today, okay?" She leaned down and kissed his forehead before leaving the room. As soon as she was gone, Alex reached under his pillow and pulled out the small framed photo he kept hidden there. The glass was slightly smudged from his fingerprints, but the image was clear. Alex sitting on his dad's shoulders at the beach, both of them laughing at something forgotten. The photo was taken just 6 months before the accident, before everything changed. It had been 3 years since Dad's car slid off the icy road. 3 years of it being just him and Mom, 3 years of learning how to be okay again, and now Tom was going to change everything once more. Alex carefully returned the photo to its hiding place and forced himself out of bed. He knew his mom would be sad if he made a scene today, and despite everything, he hated making her sad. The kitchen was busy with activity. Grandma Betty was arranging flowers while talking on the phone with the caterer. Lisa's best friend Jen was helping with makeup. And Tom's sister was organizing something on her laptop. "There's my favorite nephew," Uncle Pete called out when Alex finally made his way downstairs in his dress shirt and pants, suit jacket hanging from one finger. "I'm your only nephew," Alex replied with a small smile. Uncle Pete was okay. He always brought cool rocks from his travels and never tried to make Alex talk about his feelings. "And the best-looking one, too," Pete winked, ruffling Alex's hair. "Want some breakfast?" "I made pancakes." Alex nodded and slid onto a stool at the counter. The pancakes were shaped like dinosaurs the way Dad used to make them. He wondered if Uncle Pete remembered that or if it was just a coincidence. "Big day, huh?" Pete said casually as he poured syrup on Alex's plate. "I guess. You know, it's okay not to feel excited about it." Alex looked up, surprised. Everyone else had been telling him how happy he should be, how lucky they were that Tom wanted to be part of their family. "Your mom knows you miss your dad," Pete continued, keeping his voice low. "She misses him too. Then why is she marrying Tom?" Alex couldn't help asking. Pete seemed to think carefully before answering. "Because people can hold love for more than one person in their hearts. Your mom loving Tom doesn't change how much she loved your dad, or how much she loves you." Alex poked at his pancakes. "Tom wants to take me camping next month. Dad promised to take me camping when I turned 8. We never got to go." Understanding flashed across Uncle Pete's face. "Ah, I get it now." "Get what?" "Why you've been giving Tom such a hard time. You think if you do things with him that you were supposed to do with your dad, you're replacing those memories." Alex felt his throat tighten. "Dad was supposed to teach me to fish and camp and drive and everything. Your dad would want someone to teach you those things, buddy. He wouldn't want you to miss out." Before Alex could respond, the kitchen burst into activity as the makeup artist arrived. His mom caught his eye across the room and gave him an encouraging smile. Alex tried to smile back, but it felt wrong on his face. The wedding venue was a garden with white chairs set up in neat rows. People Alex barely recognized were already finding their seats. His mom was hidden away in some room getting ready. Tom had tried to talk to him earlier, awkwardly complimenting his suit and asking if he was ready for his big job as ring bearer. "I don't feel good," Alex had said, which wasn't exactly a lie. His stomach did hurt like it was twisted into knots. Nervous? Tom had asked, kneeling down to Alex's level. Me too, but we'll get through it together, right? Alex had just nodded, unable to look at the man who was about to become his stepdad. Now, sitting alone on a bench near the garden pond, Alex watched a family of ducks glide across the water. The mother duck led the way with 5 ducklings following closely behind. They seemed peaceful, unbothered by the commotion of the wedding preparations. There you are. Grandma Betty's voice broke through his thoughts. Everyone's looking for you. The ceremony starts in 20 minutes. I'm just sitting, Alex said defensively. His grandmother sat beside him on the bench, her fancy dress crinkling slightly. Those ducks remind me of you and your mom after your dad passed, she said, following his gaze. She led the way and you followed, both of you just trying to stay afloat. Alex felt tears prick at his eyes and quickly blinked them away. Tom isn't trying to replace your dad, Grandma Betty said gently. No one could ever do that. Then why does he keep trying to do dad things with me? Alex blurted out. He wants to coach my baseball team and help with my science projects and take me camping. Because those are things people do when they care about a child, she explained. Tom isn't trying to be your dad. He's just trying to be someone who cares about you. Alex picked at a loose thread on his suit pants. I heard him talking on the phone yesterday. He called someone buddy. That's what Dad called me. Grandma Betty put her arm around Alex's shoulders. Oh, sweetie, lots of people use that word. It doesn't mean Tom is trying to take your dad's place. What if I forget what Dad was like? Alex whispered, voicing his deepest fear. What if I start thinking of Tom as my dad instead? That won't happen, Grandma Betty assured him. Your dad will always be your dad. The memories you have of him are yours to keep forever. She reached into her purse and pulled out a small box. I was going to give you this after the ceremony, but I think now might be better. Alex took the box and opened it carefully. Inside was a silver compass with his initials engraved on the back. This belonged to your dad when he was about your age, Grandma explained. His father gave it to him and now it's yours. I thought you might like to have it with you today, to feel like he's here in some way. Alex ran his fingers over the cool metal, imagining his dad holding the same compass decades ago. Thanks, Grandma, he said quietly. We should head back now, she said, standing and smoothing her dress. Remember, you don't have to be happy about the wedding. You just need to be respectful. Can you do that for your mom? Alex nodded and pocketed the compass. As they walked back toward the ceremony space, he felt its weight against his leg, like a secret connection to his dad. The guests were all seated now. Music had started playing softly. Alex took his place at the front with Uncle Pete, who gave him a reassuring wink. And then the music changed and everyone stood up. His mom appeared at the end of the aisle on Grandpa Joe's arm. She looked different, beautiful in a way that made Alex's chest hurt. She was smiling so widely, her eyes fixed on Tom, who stood waiting with an expression of pure happiness. As his mom walked slowly toward her future, Alex slipped his hand into his pocket and gripped the compass tightly. The metal warmed against his palm as he watched the beginning of a new chapter none of them had planned for, but one they were stepping into nonetheless. His mom caught his eye as she passed by and mouthed, I love you. Despite everything, despite the knot in his stomach and the compass in his pocket, and the memories he was afraid of losing, Alex found himself mouthing, I love you too, back to her. Some things, at least, would never change. The week after the wedding, Alex found himself at Grandma Betty's house. His mom and Tom had left for their honeymoon that morning, a 2-week trip to Hawaii that Alex had been invited to join, but had firmly declined. He'd rather spend the time with his grandmother in her old farmhouse than watch his mom and Tom hold hands on the beach. What should we do today? Grandma Betty asked as they finished breakfast. She wore her gardening clothes, clearly hoping to work on her vegetable patch, but Alex knew she'd drop everything if he suggested something else. I don't know. Alex shrugged, pushing his empty plate away. Maybe watch TV? Grandma Betty gave him a look that said she wasn't fooled by his casual tone. Or, she suggested, we could finally clean out the attic. I've been putting it off for ages, and there are some of your dad's old things up there you might like to see. Alex perked up immediately. Dad's things? Like what? Photo albums, his old baseball cards, maybe some toys from when he was your age. She smiled at his sudden interest. Plus, I found a box of your baby clothes that your mom might want for, well, someday. Alex chose to ignore that last comment. The idea of his mom and Tom having a baby made his stomach twist uncomfortably. Can we go up now? He asked, already standing. The attic stairs creaked as they climbed. The space was dusty and warm, filled with cardboard boxes, old furniture, and trunks stacked against the sloped walls. Shafts of sunlight streamed through a small round window, illuminating dancing dust particles. Let's start with this corner, Grandma Betty said, pointing to a stack of boxes labeled David's Things in faded marker. For the next hour, Alex lost himself in memories. He found his dad's high school yearbooks, flipping through pages where teenage versions of his parents smiled at the camera. There were trophies from fishing competitions, old fishing lures in a tackle box, and several photo albums filled with family vacations from before Alex was born. Your dad loved the water, Grandma Betty commented as Alex examined a photo of his father on a small sailboat. Lakes, rivers, oceans didn't matter. If he could fish there, he was happy. Alex nodded, thinking about how Tom had tried to take him fishing. He'd hated every minute of it then, but now he wondered if he'd been unfair. Maybe Tom really was just trying to share something he thought Alex would enjoy, the same way Dad would have. What's in this? Alex asked, pointing to a weathered shoebox tucked behind some larger containers. I'm not sure, Grandma Betty replied, pulling it out. Let's see. The box was unlabeled, the cardboard soft with age. When Alex lifted the lid, he found it filled with letters, photographs, and small mementos. He picked up a photo on top, a group of young men in business suits, standing in front of a tall office building. That's your dad's first job after college, Grandma Betty explained, peering over his shoulder. He was so proud of that position. Alex studied the picture carefully. His dad stood in the center, arm thrown casually around another man's shoulders. They were both grinning widely, looking like they'd just shared a joke. The other man looked strangely familiar, but Alex couldn't place him. As he dug deeper into the box, Alex found more photos of his dad with the same man, fishing on a lake, at what looked like an office Christmas party, even one where they were both wearing tuxedos at what must have been a wedding. Who's this guy? Alex asked, showing the photos to his grandmother. Dad seems to have known him pretty well. Grandma Betty took the photos, her expression changing subtly as she looked at them. That's an old friend of your father's, she said carefully. They worked together for several years. Something about her tone made Alex suspicious. What was his name? I think we should take a break for lunch, Grandma Betty said, standing up suddenly. We can continue afterward. Grandma, Alex said firmly. What was his name? Their eyes met, and after a moment, Grandma Betty sighed. His name is Thomas Wilson. Alex felt like the floor had dropped out from under him. Tom like Mom's Tom? His grandmother nodded slowly. Yes, the same Tom. But that's impossible, Alex stammered, looking back at the photos. Mom said they met at her work. She said they didn't know each other before. I think, Grandma Betty said gently, that there are some things your mother hasn't told you yet, and maybe some things Tom hasn't told her either. Alex's mind was spinning. He grabbed the box and began examining everything inside more carefully. There were birthday cards signed Tom, invitations to business events where both names were listed, and finally at the bottom, several handwritten letters. Can I read these? He asked, already unfolding one. Alex, I'm not sure that's... But he had already started reading. Dave, I can't believe it's been 5 years since we started Wilson and Parker Consulting. Remember that first tiny office with the leaky ceiling? Look at us now, man. 10 employees and that corner office you always wanted. I couldn't have done any of this without you. You're not just my business partner, you're my best friend. Here's to the next 5 years being even better. Tom Alex's hands trembled as he read the letter again. Wilson and Parker Consulting. His dad's last name was Parker. They had been business partners. Best friends, did Mom know? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Grandma Betty sat back down beside him. I don't think so, honey. Your mom met your dad after he and Tom had some kind of falling out. The business split up and Tom moved away. Your mom never met Tom during that time, as far as I know. So when Tom started dating Mom, he knew who she was. He knew she was Dad's wife? I can't say for certain, Grandma Betty replied. But it seems like he must have. Alex felt tears burning behind his eyes. Why wouldn't he tell her? Why keep it a secret? People have complicated reasons for the things they do, his grandmother said. Maybe he was afraid she wouldn't give him a chance if she knew. Maybe he was ashamed of whatever happened between him and your father. Alex picked up another photo, his dad and Tom on a fishing trip, both holding up impressive catches, their faces split with identical grins. They looked so happy, so comfortable together. Nothing like the awkward, trying too hard Tom who had been attempting to bond with Alex for the past year. What happened between them? Alex asked. Why did they stop being friends? I don't know all the details, Grandma Betty admitted. Your dad didn't talk about it much. I just know there was some disagreement about the business, and then Tom moved across the country. They never spoke again, as far as I know. Alex carefully gathered all the photos and letters, placing them back in the shoebox. His mind was working furiously, connecting dots that had been invisible to him before. All those times Tom had seemed to know exactly what Alex's dad would have said or done. Was it because he actually knew? All those fishing trips and camping plans, were they things Tom knew Dad had wanted to do with his son? What are you thinking, Alex? Grandma Betty asked cautiously. I need to take some of these, Alex decided. Can I borrow this box? What are you planning to do? Alex met his grandmother's concerned gaze. I don't know yet, but Mom deserves to know the truth, doesn't she? And he hesitated. I think I deserve to know who Tom really is, too. Grandma Betty was quiet for a long moment before nodding. Yes, I suppose you're right, but promise me you'll think carefully before doing anything. Sometimes the truth can hurt people even when it shouldn't. I promise, Alex said, though his mind was already racing ahead. That night, alone in his room at Grandma Betty's house, Alex spread the contents of the box across his bed. He sorted through each item carefully, creating a timeline in his mind. His dad and Tom had been friends for at least 7 years, according to the dates on the letters and photos. Their business had been successful. They had shared holidays, trips, and important life events. And then, something had happened. Alex found one final letter at the very bottom of the box. Unlike the others, this one was still in its envelope, the seal unbroken. On the front, in his father's handwriting, was written, "To Tom, never sent." His heart pounding, Alex carefully opened the envelope and unfolded the letter inside. Tom, it's been 3 years since everything fell apart. I'm still angry about what happened, but lately I've been thinking that maybe life's too short for grudges. I have a son now, his name is Alex, and he's the best thing that's ever happened to me. Someday I'd like you to meet him. Maybe we could go fishing, the 3 of us. Dave Alex read the letter 3 times, tears now flowing freely down his cheeks. His dad had wanted to reconnect with Tom. He had wanted Tom to meet him. As he carefully returned everything to the box, Alex made a decision. His mother and Tom would be back from their honeymoon in 13 days. He had until then to figure out exactly what he was going to do with this newfound knowledge. One thing was certain: nothing would ever be the same again. The morning of the wedding arrived with perfect blue skies and a gentle breeze, the kind of day wedding planners dream about. For Alex, however, the beautiful weather felt like a mockery of the storm brewing inside him. For 2 weeks he had guarded his secret. The shoebox remained hidden under his bed, its contents memorized from countless late-night examinations. Several times he had almost told Grandma Betty what he planned to do, but something held him back. This was between him, his mom, and Tom. Alex, have you seen my pearl earrings? His mom's voice echoed up the stairs. She sounded stressed but happy, the way she'd been ever since returning from the honeymoon with a tan and non-stop stories about Hawaii. No, he called back, sitting on his bed and running his fingers over the folded paper in his pocket. After finding his dad's unsent letter, Alex had made a decision. He'd written a note of his own and selected one photograph from the collection, the one of his dad and Tom fishing together, their faces young and carefree. For days he'd practiced what he would say when the moment came. His bedroom door swung open and his mom appeared, already dressed in her simple white gown. Her hair was pulled back with small flowers woven through it, and despite the obvious stress of the morning, she looked beautiful. "You're not dressed yet?" she asked, her forehead creasing with worry. "Honey, we need to leave in 30 minutes. "I know," Alex said. He trailed off, suddenly unsure. What if his plan ruined everything? What if it made his mom cry on her wedding day? Lisa crossed the room and sat beside him on the bed. "What's going on?" "You've been so quiet since we got back." Alex looked down at his hands. Do you really love Tom? He asked softly. His mom's expression softened. Yes, I do. Very much. More than you love Dad. Lisa took a deep breath. It's not about more or less, Alex, it's different. What I had with your father was special and can never be replaced. What I have with Tom is new and different, but also special. Alex nodded slowly. I found something at Grandma's house, he said, almost whispering. Something about Dad and Tom. His mom's expression changed, a flicker of confusion crossing her face. What do you mean? For a moment, Alex considered showing her the contents of the shoebox right then, but something stopped him. This wasn't the right time, not with guests already arriving downstairs and the ceremony less than an hour away. Nothing, he said finally. I'll tell you later. I'll get dressed now. Relief washed over his mom's face. Thank you, sweetie. And remember, you don't have to give a speech or anything. Just hand the rings to the best man when Pastor Mike asks for them. Alex nodded, waiting until his mom left before pulling out his suit. As he dressed, he could hear the growing sounds of activity downstairs. Relatives arriving, the catering team setting up, the photographer directing people for pre-wedding photos. Through his window, he could see the backyard transformed. White chairs lined a makeshift aisle with flowers and ribbons decorating each row. A simple arch stood at the end, covered in more flowers. It was smaller than he'd expected, just family and close friends, maybe 50 people total. Knock knock, came Uncle Pete's voice as he appeared in the doorway. How's the ring bearer doing? Fine, Alex said automatically, adjusting his tie with clumsy fingers. Uncle Pete came over and helped him straighten it. That's better. You clean up nice, kid. Thanks. Alex hesitated, then asked, Uncle Pete, did you know Dad and Tom were friends? Before, I mean. Uncle Pete's hands froze briefly before continuing with the tie. Who told you that? No one. I found pictures and stuff at Grandma's house. Ah. Uncle Pete finished with the tie and stepped back, studying Alex's face. Yes, I knew. They were business partners for a while. Does Mom know? Uncle Pete's expression turned serious. That's something you should ask Tom. It's not my place to say. But, Alex, there's a lot about adult relationships that's complicated. Sometimes people have good reasons for the choices they make. He put his hands on Alex's shoulders. Whatever you're thinking of doing, just remember that today is important to your mom. She deserves to be happy. Alex swallowed hard. I know. Good man. Uncle Pete glanced at his watch. Time to head downstairs. Ready? No, Alex thought. I'm not ready at all. But he nodded anyway. The ceremony was set to begin at 2 o'clock. Guests were seated, soft music played, and Tom stood at the front with the pastor and his best friend Rick. Alex sat in the front row beside Grandma Betty, who kept glancing at him with a knowing look that made him wonder if she had guessed what he was planning. You okay? She whispered, patting his hand. I think so, he whispered back. The music changed, signaling the start of the ceremony. Everyone stood and turned toward the back where Alex's mom appeared on Grandpa Joe's arm. She looked radiant, smiling at the guests as she began her walk down the aisle. Alex watched Tom's face as he saw his bride. The man's eyes filled with tears, and he smiled so widely it must have hurt. He looked happy, genuinely happy. For a brief moment, Alex reconsidered. Maybe he should just let it go. Maybe some secrets were meant to stay buried. But then he thought about his dad's letter. Someday I'd like you to meet him. His dad had wanted Tom in his life. What would he think about Tom marrying Mom? Would he be angry? Or would he be glad that the two people he cared about most had found each other? The ceremony began with Pastor Mike welcoming everyone and talking about love and commitment. Alex barely heard the words, his heart pounding too loudly in his ears. His hand kept returning to his pocket, feeling the folded note and photograph. If anyone knows of any reason why these two should not be joined in matrimony, speak now or forever hold your peace, Pastor Mike said. Following the traditional script, the garden fell silent. It was the moment in every wedding where nothing was supposed to happen, just a brief pause before continuing. Alex felt Grandma Betty's hand tighten on his, but she didn't stop him as he slowly stood up. Alex, his mom whispered, her face going pale. Tom looked equally shocked, his mouth opening slightly as if to say something. With shaking legs, Alex walked the few steps to where Tom stood. The guests began murmuring, some with concerned looks, others with curious expressions. He could feel dozens of eyes on him, but he kept his gaze fixed on Tom. I have something for you, Alex said, his voice sounding strange and small in the open air. He reached into his pocket and pulled out the folded paper and photograph, holding them out to Tom. Tom glanced at Lisa, who looked completely bewildered, before carefully taking what Alex offered. With trembling fingers, he unfolded the note first. In Alex's best handwriting, it read, "I know you were Dad's best friend. I found this picture and his letters at Grandma's house. He wanted me to meet you someday." Tom stared at the words, then slowly turned over the photograph. The color drained from his face as he recognized himself and Alex's father, arms around each other's shoulders, fishing rods in hand. 20 years younger, but unmistakably them. "Oh my God," Tom whispered. Lisa stepped closer. "Tom, what is it?" But Tom seemed unable to speak. His eyes locked with Alex's in a moment of silent understanding. He knelt down slowly until he was at eye level with the boy. "You knew?" Tom asked quietly. "How long have you known?" 2 weeks, Alex replied. "Since I stayed at Grandma's house." The guests were completely silent now, watching the drama unfold with confused expressions. Pastor Mike cleared his throat awkwardly, clearly unsure whether to intervene. "Someone tell me what's going on," Lisa said, her voice tight with worry. Tom looked up at her, still holding the photograph. "Lisa, there's something I should have told you. Something I should have told both of you a long time ago." He held out the photograph to her. As she took it, her expression changed from confusion to shock. "Is that you and David?" she asked, looking from the picture to Tom and back again. "You knew my husband?" Tom nodded slowly. "We were business partners. Best friends, actually, for 7 years. But you never said anything," Lisa whispered. "All this time." "I was afraid," Tom admitted, his voice cracking. "Afraid you wouldn't give me a chance if you knew. Afraid you'd think I had ulterior motives." Alex watched his mom's face, trying to gauge her reaction. Was she angry, hurt? Would the wedding be called off? The silence stretched on, tense and uncomfortable. The guests began to shift in their seats, unsure what was happening. And then, surprising everyone, Lisa began to laugh. A soft, wondering sound. "All this time," she said, shaking her head in disbelief, "I thought there was something familiar about you. The way you take your coffee, your favorite fishing spots, even some of your expressions. They reminded me of him." She turned to Alex, her eyes shining with tears that hadn't yet fallen. "And you figured it out, didn't you?" "My clever, brave boy," Alex nodded, relief washing over him. "There's more," he said. "Dad wrote a letter to Tom. He never sent it, but I found it. He wanted to be friends again. He wanted Tom to meet me." The tears in his mom's eyes spilled over then, running down her cheeks in silent streams. But she was smiling, a sad, beautiful smile that somehow contained both grief and joy. "I think," she said softly, taking Tom's hand in one of hers and Alex's in the other, "that we have a lot to talk about after this ceremony." She looked to Pastor Mike, who seemed utterly bemused by the turn of events. "I believe you are marrying us?" The guests laughed nervously, the tension breaking. As Alex returned to his seat beside Grandma Betty, she squeezed his hand. "Well done," she whispered. "Your dad would be proud." And for the first time since his dad died, Alex thought that might actually be true. The rest of the wedding ceremony passed in a blur. Alex watched as his mom and Tom exchanged rings and vows, their voices steady despite the emotional revelation just minutes earlier. The guests, though still confused about what had happened, smiled and clapped at all the right moments. When Pastor Mike finally announced them as husband and wife, everyone cheered. But Alex noticed that both his mom and Tom looked at him right away, as if seeking his approval. He gave them a small nod, and the relief on their faces was unmistakable. During the reception, Alex sat at the head table beside his grandmother, picking at his chicken while watching the adults mingle. Several relatives had tried to ask him what had happened during the ceremony, but he just shrugged and said it was a private family matter. Grandma Betty had fielded most of the questions anyway, telling people that everything was fine and to enjoy the celebration. "They keep looking over here," Alex said quietly to his grandmother, as he watched his mom and Tom talking with guests, their eyes frequently darting in his direction. "They're worried about you," Grandma Betty replied. "You dropped quite a bombshell today. Are they mad at me?" "I don't think so," she said, patting his hand. "But they probably have a lot of questions." As if on cue, Uncle Pete appeared beside their table. "Hey, buddy," he said to Alex. "Your mom and Tom would like to talk with you for a minute." "They're in the study." Alex's stomach tightened. Now, if that's okay, I told them I'd stay with the guests so they could have some time with you. Grandma Betty gave Alex an encouraging nod. Go on. It'll be fine. With a deep breath, Alex slid off his chair and followed Uncle Pete through the house to his grandfather's old study, a small room lined with bookshelves that was rarely used these days. His mom and Tom were waiting inside, still in their wedding clothes but looking more relaxed than during the ceremony. There he is, his mom said with a warm smile. Come sit with us, sweetie. Alex perched on the edge of an armchair across from the small love seat where they sat. For a moment, no one spoke, the only sound the muffled music and laughter from the reception outside. First, Tom said finally, I want to thank you for what you did today. Alex, it took a lot of courage. Alex looked up, surprised. You're not mad? No, his mom said quickly. We're not mad at all. We're just processing everything. I should have told you both a long time ago, Tom continued, about my friendship with your dad. It was wrong to keep it secret. Why did you? Alex asked, the question that had been burning in his mind for weeks. Tom leaned forward, his elbows on his knees. When I first met your mom again, it was at that charity fundraiser for the children's hospital. I recognized her right away. David had shown me so many photos of you both. But she didn't remember me. We'd only met once, very briefly, years before. At the company Christmas party, Lisa added. I barely spoke to any of David's colleagues that night. I was pregnant with you, Alex, and wasn't feeling well. Tom nodded. I almost said something then, but I don't know. It felt awkward. And then as we started talking and getting to know each other, I kept thinking the right moment would come up naturally. But it never did, Lisa said softly. No, it never did, and the longer I waited, the harder it became to bring it up. I was afraid you'd think I had sought you out on purpose, that I had some agenda. The truth is, running into you that day was completely coincidental. Tom ran a hand through his hair. By the time we started dating seriously, it felt like I'd waited too long. I was afraid I'd lose you both if you knew I'd been keeping such a big secret. Alex frowned, trying to understand. But if you and Dad were best friends, why did you stop talking to each other? A shadow crossed Tom's face. That's something I've regretted every day for the past 12 years. We had a business disagreement that turned personal. We both said things we shouldn't have. I moved away, he stayed, and our friendship just ended. What was the fight about? Alex pressed. Tom and Lisa exchanged a glance. That's a long story, Tom said carefully. The short version is that your dad wanted to keep our company small and local, while I wanted to expand nationally. We couldn't agree, so we dissolved the partnership. Your dad bought out Tom's half of the business, Lisa explained. That's the money that helped us buy our house, actually. Alex thought about this for a moment. In Dad's letter, the one he never sent, he said he was still angry but wanted to reconnect. That he wanted you to meet me. Tom's eyes grew misty. I never knew that. I wish he'd sent that letter. Me too, Alex said quietly. Lisa moved to the edge of the love seat and reached for Alex's hands. I need you to know something, sweetie. If I had known about Tom's history with your father, it wouldn't have changed how I feel about him. But I understand why you might feel confused or even betrayed. I'm not, Alex said, surprising himself with the truth of it. Not anymore. I was angry at first when I found the pictures, but then I read Dad's letter and I kept thinking about what he would want. And what do you think he would want? Tom asked softly. Alex looked up, meeting Tom's anxious gaze. I think he'd want us to be happy, all of us. He hesitated, then added, I think maybe it wasn't an accident that you and Mom found each other again. Maybe Dad had something to do with it. The tears that had been threatening in his mom's eyes finally spilled over. Oh, Alex, she whispered, pulling him into a tight hug. Over her shoulder, Alex could see Tom wiping his own eyes. When his mom finally released him, Tom leaned forward again. Alex, I want to make you a promise. I'm never going to try to replace your dad. He was an amazing man, the best friend I ever had. I hope that someday you'll let me tell you stories about him that you might not have heard. About the time he accidentally set off the fire alarm in our first office, or how he once talked his way out of a speeding ticket by showing the officer pictures of you as a baby. Despite himself, Alex smiled at the thought. I'd like that. And I promise to be honest with you from now on. Both of you, Tom added, looking at Lisa. No more secrets. The door to the study opened slightly and Uncle Pete poked his head in. Sorry to interrupt, but people are asking about the first dance and the photographer is getting antsy. Lisa nodded. We'll be right there. As Uncle Pete disappeared again, she turned back to Alex. Are you okay? Do you want to go back to the reception? Alex thought for a moment, then nodded. Yeah, I'm okay. He looked at Tom. Can I ask you something first? Anything. Those fishing trips you kept wanting to take me on, was that because of Dad? Because you knew he liked fishing? Tom's expression softened. Partly. Your dad talked about fishing with you someday, but also because I genuinely love fishing, and I thought it might be something we could enjoy together. Maybe we could go next weekend? Alex suggested. Not to the lake, though. Dad always said the river had better fish. Tom's face broke into a wide smile. The river it is. As they walked back to the reception, Alex between his mom and Tom, he felt something he hadn't experienced in a long time. A sense of rightness. As if the pieces of his life were finally clicking into place again. The reception was in full swing, with people dancing and laughing under strings of twinkling lights in the backyard. As they emerged from the house, someone spotted them and announced, "Here they are. Time for the first dance." The crowd parted, creating space in the middle of the makeshift dance floor. The DJ started playing a slow song, and Tom led Lisa to the center. As they began to dance, Alex felt Grandma Betty's arm slip around his shoulders. Everything okay? She asked quietly. Yeah, he replied, watching his mom and Tom sway to the music. I think it's going to be okay now. After a minute, Tom looked over and beckoned to Alex. His mom stretched out her hand, inviting him to join them. With only a moment's hesitation, Alex walked onto the dance floor. His mom pulled him into their embrace, and the three of them moved together to the music, drawing awes from the watching guests. It wasn't what Alex had expected when he'd stood up during the ceremony hours earlier. It wasn't what he'd expected when he'd found that shoebox at Grandma Betty's house. But as he stood there, held between his mom and the man who had once been his father's best friend, he realized something important. Family wasn't always what you expected it to be. Sometimes it was what you built from the broken pieces of the past, something new and different but no less real. And somewhere, Alex was sure, his dad was smiling. 6 months had passed since the wedding. The summer heat had given way to autumn, and now the first hints of winter could be felt in the crisp morning air. In the Parker-Wilson household, a new normal had gradually taken shape. Alex sat at the kitchen table, homework spread out before him as he struggled with a particularly difficult math problem. From the living room came the sound of his mom's laughter, followed by Tom's deeper chuckle. They were going through old photo albums, something they'd been doing a lot lately. Need any help? Tom asked, appearing in the kitchen doorway with an empty coffee mug. Alex tapped his pencil against the paper. Maybe. It's about percentages. Tom refilled his coffee and pulled up a chair beside Alex. Over the past months, these moments had become routine. Tom helping with homework, especially math and science, which had apparently been his best subjects in school too. So if you need to find 15% of 84, Tom began. As they worked through the problem together, Alex found himself studying Tom's profile. He looked nothing like Dad. Tom was taller with lighter hair that was starting to gray at the temples. But sometimes when he laughed or concentrated hard on something, Alex caught glimpses of expressions that reminded him of his father. It had been strange at first, but now it felt almost comforting. Got it, Alex said as the solution finally clicked. Thanks. No problem, Tom replied, standing to return to the living room. He hesitated, then asked, Want to see something cool? Your mom found some photos of the fishing cabin your dad and I used to rent every summer. Alex nodded and followed Tom to where his mom sat surrounded by photo albums. She smiled up at them, making space on the couch. Look at these two, she said, pointing to a faded photograph of two young men standing on a dock, fishing gear scattered around their feet. This was before I even met your dad. Alex studied the picture. His dad looked so young, probably in his early 20s with longer hair and a carefree smile. Tom stood beside him, holding up a decent-sized fish. That was the first time your dad ever caught a trout, Tom said, the memory clearly vivid. He was so excited he almost fell off the dock. Did he really? Alex asked, trying to imagine his always careful father being that clumsy. Tom nodded. Oh yeah, your dad wasn't always the responsible guy you knew. In college, he once tried to sneak into the dean's office on a dare. No way, Alex said, eyes widening. Way, Tom confirmed with a grin. He set off the alarm and had to hide in a janitor's closet for 2 hours. Lisa laughed. He never told me that story. Probably because he made me swear never to tell anyone, Tom said, looking slightly guilty. But I figure the statute of limitations has expired. More stories followed. Some Alex had heard before, others completely new. His dad teaching Tom to drive a stick shift, the time they got lost hiking and had to sleep in a cave, the practical jokes they played on each other at the office. With each story, Alex felt like he was getting pieces of his father back, sides of him that Alex had been too young to see or appreciate. It was like a fog lifting, revealing a fuller picture of who his dad had really been. Hey, I almost forgot, Tom said suddenly, standing up. I have something for you, Alex. I've been waiting for the right time and, well, now seems good. He disappeared down the hallway toward the bedroom, returning a few minutes later with a worn leather case. This was your dad's, he explained, setting it carefully on the coffee table. I found it when we were unpacking some of my old things from storage. Alex opened the case slowly. Inside lay a beautiful compass, much more elaborate than the simple one his grandmother had given him. This one had a heavy brass casing with intricate engravings around the edges. He used this on all our camping trips, Tom explained. It was kind of his lucky charm. He said as long as he had it, he'd never truly be lost. Alex lifted it carefully, feeling its weight in his palm. Why did you have it? Tom exchanged a glance with Lisa before answering. The last time we went fishing together, before our falling out, he left it in my car by accident. I meant to return it, but then everything happened with the business and, well, I never got the chance. All these years you kept it? Lisa asked softly. Tom nodded. I couldn't bring myself to get rid of it. Even when we weren't speaking, it felt wrong to throw away something that meant so much to him. Alex studied the compass, noticing that despite its age, it still worked perfectly, the needle swinging smoothly to point north. Something his dad used to say came back to him suddenly. Always know which way is home. Thank you, he said, carefully returning the compass to its case. I'll take good care of it. I know you will, Tom replied. Later that evening, after finishing his homework and having dinner, Alex retreated to his room. The compass sat on his desk next to the simpler one from Grandma Betty. 2 pieces of his father, connecting past and present. He pulled out the shoebox from under his bed, the one containing the photos and letters he'd found at his grandmother's house. Over the months, Tom had helped him identify the people and places in each picture, filling in the stories behind them. The box had become a kind of treasure chest, a collection of memories that Alex could visit whenever he missed his dad. A knock at his door pulled him from his thoughts. Come in, he called. Tom poked his head in. Just wanted to say goodnight. Night, Alex replied. Then, making a sudden decision, he added, Hey, Tom, can I ask you something? Sure. Tom stepped fully into the room. Alex picked up a blank sheet of paper from his desk. Could you help me write something? It's for school. We have to write a letter to someone important in our lives. Your mom would probably be better at that than me, Tom said. She's the writer in the family. I know, but I want your help with this one. Something in Alex's tone must have conveyed the importance of the request, because Tom sat down on the edge of the bed without further question. Okay, who's the letter for? Alex took a deep breath. It's for my dad. For a moment, Tom looked surprised, then his expression softened with understanding. I think that's a great idea. I thought maybe you could help me tell him about everything, about how things turned out. Tom nodded slowly. I'd be honored. Where do you want to start? Dear Dad, Alex began, pen poised over the paper. I'm not sure if you can read this where you are, but I wanted to tell you what's been happening. The words came more easily than Alex had expected, flowing from his pen as Tom occasionally suggested phrases or helped him find the right words. They wrote about the wedding, about finding the shoebox, about fishing trips and homework help and everyday moments that had slowly stitched their broken family back together. I think you would be happy with how things turned out, Alex wrote near the end. Tom tells me stories about you all the time, so I feel like I know you better now than I did before. And I still have your compass, so I'll always know which way is home. When they finished, Tom's eyes were damp and he cleared his throat several times before speaking. That's a beautiful letter, Alex. Your dad would be proud of you. Do you think so? Alex asked, suddenly feeling very young. I know so, Tom assured him. You're so much like him, smart, kind, brave. All the best parts of him live on in you. Alex carefully folded the letter and placed it in an envelope. Mom said we could go to the cemetery this weekend. I want to leave it there, Tom nodded. That sounds perfect. As Tom stood to leave, Alex made another decision. He held out the compass case. I want you to keep this. Alex, no, that was your father's. It should be yours. I already have one, Alex said, pointing to Grandma Betty's simpler compass on his desk. And anyway, Dad left this one with you. Maybe he meant for you to have it. Tom hesitated, clearly torn. Are you sure? I'm sure, Alex said firmly. You kept it safe all these years. You should keep it now. After a moment, Tom accepted the case with reverent hands. Thank you. That means more than you know. That night, as Alex lay in bed, he thought about all that had happened since the day he found that shoebox in his grandmother's attic. How one discovery had changed everything, bringing painful truths to light but also opening the door to healing and new beginnings. He thought about his mom, happier than she'd been in years. About Tom, who carried his own grief and guilt but was trying his best to be a good stepfather. About himself, no longer caught between past and present but finding a way to honor both. Outside his window, the first snowflakes of winter began to fall, dusting the world in white. A clean slate, a fresh start. And somewhere, Alex was certain, his dad was watching over them all, not with jealousy or anger, but with peace and love. Some people might call it coincidence that his mom had found her way to his dad's best friend. But Alex preferred to think of it differently. He liked to imagine his dad had helped guide them together, like a compass pointing the way home.